Welcome to the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome into another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm joined by Chris Felice tonight. I'm your host, Matt High. We are the Heroes of Fantasy Football Podcast. Ready, happy you are here listening to us. Do us a favor before we even start getting into what we got to talk about today, because there's a lot. I'm gonna ask everyone to do us a huge favor. Please like, share, subscribe. Go down in the comment section below. Give us a shout on there, and really helps us out. So, Chris, how are we feeling tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. Yeah. I went like 6 for 10 this week in fantasy. Had a good week. Now I'm here getting ready for another week in the Thunderdome. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. Thank you for beating Rich last week, because that puts me at the top of our dynasty table. I did not expect that, but hey, here we are. It's fun. I'm back in first place.
McConkey, man.
He was awesome.
McConkey.
He was awesome. Last week was a pretty crazy week. I won our league by 1.5 points because I had a bunch of things going on, and I thought it was dead in the water. And then DeAndre Swift ran for a 60-yard touchdown almost and put me back in it, and it was just back and forth until all those midday games ended. So it was nice. It was fun. It's nice to be on the winning side of that instead of the losing side, which I'm usually a part of. So, but obviously, for anyone in the fantasy world, the NFL world, anyone who has a pulse and eyes and ears, there were some things that went down this past couple days that we're going to need to address. We're going to dive into it and give our thoughts on the situation. So, first situation is obviously going to be what is going on in Indianapolis. The 22-year-old Anthony Richardson, quarterback, former starting quarterback of the Colts, the 4th overall draft pick, has been benched for a 40-year-old Joe Flacco. Now, obviously, I'm going to have some words and some thoughts on this, but let's let you go first, and then I'll dive in with how I'm feeling.
So we had a nice discussion before the show actually started. So I kind of let my thoughts had already aired out a bit, but I'll kind of speak. I'll sum it up basically. I'm not totally against the decision in some sense. There is clearly something going on with Richardson that has to be figured out. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's chemistry. I don't know if it's on the receivers. I don't know if it's on who. I have no idea. All I know is that the receivers look better under Joe Flacco as of right now. For now, that's it. I don't know where that leads in the future. Like I said, I think a bit ago, a couple weeks ago, I wouldn't give up on Richardson if you're a dynasty owner. He'll be back. He'll be fine. This isn't like the worst thing imaginable. He just clearly something needs to be figured out there. I don't know what happened, but I'm confident that he'll figure it out. We've seen what he can do, especially at the beginning of his rookie year. This is a waiting game at the moment. Matt, I know you are far more adamant about this than I am, so I'm going to leave my thoughts on there. I will say I'm against. I learned this today, actually, that Richardson is benched for the rest of the season. That doesn't make too much sense to me. That's a little weird. Personally, but so I'm at least against that, but I don't mind the swapping for Flacco, at least for the next game. Now, Matt, go ahead and unload onto all of us what your thoughts are on this situation.
I think this is a terrible...
And you're done. Okay, moving on. Kidding.
I got more words than that. This... To me, it's been weird because, yes, Anthony Richardson has not looked the best. No one is denying that. I am an Anthony Richardson truther. I will probably die alone on this hill, but it's fine. I have snacks. But with that being said, he's a 22-year-old kid He is younger than Caleb Williams, the first overall pick this year on the Bears. Remember when he was painting his nails and everyone was losing their freaking minds? Well, he had a rough start to his career, but the Bears are sticking with him. You could say that's a weird situation or that's not the same situation at all, but to move on from a quarterback who, coming in, now should be no surprise to anybody because Anthony Richardson was always a project quarterback. He didn't have the college snaps. He was going to need a coach like I thought Shane Steichen, who did great work. But to move on from a quarterback after all season long, all last season, they're preaching you need to be patient. He needs snaps. He needs reps. To now being like, yeah, forget all that. I was lying. And now to bench him for a 40-year-old quarterback who, yes, Joe Flacco is a better passer. No one is arguing that. Not a single person on the Anthony Richardson truther side is going to tell you he's better than Joe Flacco at this point. But do you know why? Because one of those guys has 17 years of experience. That's like me going in to a job for a senior management position. I'm not a senior manager. Obviously, I'm probably not going to be good at it. But give me a little bit of time and you can work things out. You don't give up on a guy who, yes, it was a boneheaded decision to call himself out of the game. I am not saying that is okay. That is wrong. That is the worst way to act as an NFL quarterback. But you're going to bench him for the entire season because he got tired from running around, throwing a 300-pound defensive lineman off his back to try to make a play? Like, we're going to draw the line there. Everything else is okay. Wide receivers dropping balls. That's perfectly fine. That's because Anthony Richardson sucks at throwing the football, right? Or are they just dropping the football? They lead the league in drop passes. Why are we not giving any of the credit where credit's due? You can't just blast the quarterback saying, you suck, but all them, they're okay. Last week, I watched every pass by Anthony Richardson. He had some real stupid plays. Real stupid plays. It's going to happen because he's a young quarterback with no experience. But I also saw he could have had a 4-touchdown game if his wide receivers could catch the ball. And one of them should have been a catch in the end zone. Adonai Mitchell's should have been a touchdown, but he didn't get 2 feet in bounds. He was in bounds, but he didn't get the foot down. Then you had the Michael Pittman touchdown that was called back on penalty. Part of that was probably Anthony Richardson's fault for extending the play a little bit too long. He had him open. He could have just done it a little bit earlier. Okay, fine. You want to say that one? Josh Downs was called down at the 1, which resulted in a Jonathan Taylor touchdown. And he had that great throw. Designed play, by the way. It was an excellent play call, excellent execution of that play call by Anthony Richardson to the Josh Downs touchdown. So I just want to make sure he's benched just because he called himself out, okay, there's another way to not destroy your young quarterback's confidence. You make him do a couple extra drills during the week. You make him stay late. You make him come in early. You do other things. You don't just say, well, I know you're tired, but that's not how you do it. And we're going to just destroy the rest of your season because, you were tired. Well, I'm tired of trying to defend him to people that clearly don't watch things. My big pet peeve in life is hypocrisy, and you can't have all of these other things happening, put blame on a single person without dishing it out. Not saying Anthony Richardson doesn't deserve some of the blame, because obviously he does, and I want to make sure everyone understands that. He does. But so does everyone else. You can't just make him the scapegoat. I think we're going to end it there. Any comments?
I'm going to say one more thing, right? Because I think it's really funny, but it also wouldn't surprise me because it's just the Colts. If they traded away Anthony Richardson at the end of the season, it wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. I just want to make sure that we are all aware of this. If that were to happen, it wouldn't surprise me, and it shouldn't surprise you. Moving on.
Yeah. All right, it's just so frustrating, man. Just the whole time seeing the like everyone's thinking like he was coming in as the Andrew Luck. No, he sucked. He didn't have good completion percentage. He was a very, very raw quarterback prospect. This should be nothing new. You need reps. You need practice. What does practice make? Practice makes perfect. That's what we're taught when we're 2 years old.
I get that. I get it. This is a sensitive topic.
A little bit. A little bit.
Yeah.
But moving on to another one. Yeah, we're going to go on to another trade that went down. We have Diontae Johnson joining the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I want to ask you, before the trade, where do you see Diontae's value now? Is he about the same? Is he in a better situation? Or do you think this is a worse situation? What are your initial thoughts on the trade?
I'd argue about the same. I think, which is a little weird to say. I think it's the same value for different reasons, right? Before, he was definitely the guy, however, on a team that was subpar, right? But now he's definitely the number 2, but on a far better team with a lot more options. I would argue, yeah, I think his value is about the same. It's a really weird situation. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's going to affect Zay too much. I don't know if it's going to affect any of that team too much, because I don't know what that looks like in the scheme. It's definitely really weird, but yeah, I would say it's about the same. I think. I don't even know what I would trade to get the Diontae Johnson. That his value is so weird right now going on to there. What do you think?
For me, I mean, Diontae Johnson, I mean, he's tied for, with missing a game, he's tied for 12th in targets to the wide receiver position. That, I don't know if his target share is going to increase at all, because I don't think it can, because he was just getting peppered with targets, because who else is going to catch the football in Carolina? I think with this, it's going to be...
I will.
Yeah, I mean, you probably could. I mean, I've watched some of those wide receivers, and oopsies.
True.
But for me, with Diontae, his target share is going to come down. He's not going to be the number 1 target. I don't think anyone expects that. But I do think he's going to get better targets, because look who's throwing the football. It's going to be Lamar Jackson. It's an upgrade from Andy Dalton / Bryce Young. So I think he will get more efficient targets. I think his efficiency numbers are going to go up a little bit, but the overall target volume will go down. So I think it'll, like you said, I think it's about the same. This is also just a this year thing. So like for those of you in Dynasty, go buy Zay Flowers. He might not really negatively impact him this season, and next year, I don't know if they're going to re-sign Diontae. He could be on another team again. Like it's a smart move for the Ravens to try to win a Super Bowl this year, because they look great. But this to me, this tells me more about Rashad Bateman. I think that experiment is over, and I think this is the reason why they made the move. So Diontae, I think, stock up a little bit. I mean, ever so slightly, but I do think I would take the shot on Diontae. If you have him in Dynasty, maybe you try to, sell him a little bit, just because of the uncertainty for next year. But I think he's going to be okay. I don't think he's going to be amazing. I think he will have some of those spike weeks that we love for fantasy, week winning upside on his team. But I think on a team that doesn't pass that much, it might not make much of a difference. It's getting crowded over there. Yeah, Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, like...
Isaiah Likely is also there every now and then. Yeah, it's getting really inconsistent.
Yeah, so it's one of those, I'm not buying him, but I'm not selling him in redraft. For Dynasty, I'm more on the sell side. Is that kind of where you stand on him?
Yeah, I think you only buy him if you have Zay Flowers. I think he is definitely a fantastic insurance clause to have. To an extent. The last thing you want is if you're in a winning scenario and for some reason Zay is like a pivot, like maybe he's like one of your only like good wide receivers. The other guys are kind of like a little sketchy, right? The last thing you need is for him to go down with injury, or God forbid, because the Ravens have a history of, I don't know, changing game plans for some reason when it matters most. If all of a sudden Zay Flowers decides to just, dip out of the game plan for a little bit, you kind of want the guy right behind him, you know?
Gotcha. Yeah. So I think we're going to move on to the next thing. Stefon Diggs out for the year with an ACL tear. So what do you think this does to the Texans? Is this stock down for CJ Stroud? Is it stock up for Tank Dell? What do you think?
Definitely stock up for Tank Dell for now. I would say it stays about the same for CJ. I don't think it's going to affect him too much. And then when Nico Collins comes back, it's just going to be last year again. So, if anything, it's back to normalcy, which is honestly good for most people who drafted Collins or Dell, to be quite honest with you. It actually makes your jobs a lot easier. So, yeah, I would say CJ remains the same and Tank Dell goes up a bit. Yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think this is going to be more of the same. I mean, part of the reason we all were hopeful for CJ Stroud was because he was going to have Nico Collins, Stefon Diggs, and Tank Dell to throw the ball to, and this offense is going to be, look to be really high powered. And so far, it's been a little bit inconsistent, I guess. There's been a couple things with that. I think this is really good for Tank Dell. Nico Collins is going to come back and still be the wide receiver one on this team. I don't see how that's not going to happen. Look at what he did before. I know he's going to come off on injury, but I'm not scared. This is the one time where I think they were smart with the way they did it, and they're like, all right, we're not even going to risk it. You're on IR. We don't want to be tempted to play you. Heal up. Let's go. He's on track to return in week 10, so I think it's going to be a much needed addition to this team, and I think is going to basically hit the ground running right where he left off. But overall, I think CJ Stroud in the short term, I think is he's got to take a hit. I mean, you lost a wide receiver. It's hard to. Last week I had Baker Mayfield as my sit because I wanted to see what was going to happen with the target share. These are shots you need to take because the data suggests that you lose a player, chances are you're not going to do as good because they're a big part of the offense. And, Diggs was part of that because, part of that was that Nico Collins was out. So he had to be. He was necessary for this offense, and it's unfortunate. But this week it's a little bit hairy. I don't know if Xavier Hutchinson is going to take a step up this week going against the Jets on Thursday Night Football. So when this episode drops, it'll be on Friday, so that'll already happen. You'll know what we're talking about. But it's just kind of, I think it's about the same. If you have Diggs in Dynasty, this might be kind of it. I don't know. Old wide receiver coming back off an ACL tear. I don't know what his fantasy future holds, but I do not think I'll be in.
Let me comment on that. If you have Diggs right now and you're looking to compete next year, I think you're gonna have to pay attention to the offseason, see where he goes. I don't think it's it. I think there's a chance he comes back. I've seen players come back from worse.
Yeah, but younger players. I haven't seen any older. OBJ. Look at OBJ. What has he done since he tore his ACL in the Super Bowl? Absolutely nothing.
In fairness, he hasn't done too much even before that anyway.
He was still a good wide receiver. He was still good. I wouldn't put that on him. There was a lot.
My point I'm trying to make is that if you have him, right, if you try to sell Diggs now, you will get not what you want for him. So don't.
What are you willing to give up for him? Let's start there. In Dynasty League, you're going to compete next year. What are you willing to give up for him?
Oh, wait. So hold on. Let me make sure.
Right now.
Sorry. I want to make sure I have this correct. If I am in a win now mode and I have Diggs, what am I willing to trade him for? Or am I trying to buy
next year.
Diggs?
You're buying Diggs. What are you giving up for him?
I'm buying Diggs. I'm trying to win now.
Well, next year. But yeah, win now.
Yeah. I think Do I have to make a trade right now at this very moment?
Yes.
Okay. In that case, I think if I'm making the trade at this very moment, I would probably, at most, I'm trying to sell him a third. At most, I'm willing to sell him my second for that year. I'm trying to win now, because in that case, it would be
second. Whoa.
It'd be well. Hold on. Listen to me. Listen to my rationale. Right. I understand it's a very high cost, but in my thought process, right? If you win that year, sorry, I just shook my whole table. If you win that year, that second is basically like it's the last pick in the second round, right? It's basically a third, right? Obviously, I'd rather give a third, but if the person's not gonna budge, I'll give them the second if I'm really that confident I can win. Because at that point, everything doesn't matter much more. I mean, I did it. I definitely overpaid for some things, and at the end of the day, it worked out for me, right? And I ended up winning, and I don't regret that in the slightest because I was able to assemble the pieces. Like, I get it. I think it's a matter of like your logic and going into it. Like for me, it makes sense to try and throw everything into that one thing and definitely overpaying for a couple pieces. I would rather wait until the offseason to see where he goes. But if I was doing it now, if I'm doing it now, you might be able to actually get him for a little less, maybe a third and a fourth, right? If you're doing it now, that might be a possibility. But I would at most be willing to do a second. That's only if I can't get anything else done.
I'm not giving up anything more than a 4th or 5th round pick for him. If I want him. I don't even want him. So I'm on the other side.
Then why are you commenting?
I'm just trying to see.
Either. I'm not going to buy him probably, but I'm just saying, like, it really does, like, in my opinion, if you're buying him now, you're taking a huge risk. If he goes somewhere else off season, right, he looks fine, he gets signed somewhere else, that's, you obviously lose out if he ends up going to a team that needs a wide receiver and he ends up being the one there, but, like, it feels a little better than give up a higher, like, equity thing, at least take the chance on an old guy coming back rather than, like, an old guy who won't play and fall into oblivion, right? Besides the point.
I feel like he goes to the Panthers next year. He's not even the wide receiver one of the Panthers. All right. I'm kind of... I was done on Diggs early in the year. He was Mr. Necessary on this team, but that's fine. I can be wrong. I'm willing to be wrong on that one. But all right, so those are the big news topics. So do us a favor. I want to hear from the listeners. Go down to the comment section. I want to hear your thoughts on where you have Diontae. I want to hear what you think about the Texans. And obviously, it's probably a bad idea, but I want to hear all of the positives and negatives on Anthony Richardson because that's what I do. I like chaos. I embrace chaos. And apparently
you
that's what I do.
You can just say you like pain. It's okay. You like pain.
Sometimes, yeah. But definitely do that for us. I really want to know what everyone thinks to see part of it. If I'm crazy, I want to know if I'm alone on this hill or if I have people behind me. You can hide. It's okay. Just want to know if I got people have my back.
You can hide. Okay?
That's fine. I'll be the front man. I'll be the face of the Anthony Richardson truther. It's okay. I'm kind of there already. So
he's volunteered, guys.
Yes.
He has volunteered.
Yes. You can blame it all on me. But all right, everyone, that will wrap things up for us this evening. We are going to be back on Monday night with our waiver show. It'll drop Tuesday morning, so follow along on the show. Good luck with your Week 9 matchups. Hope everything works out for you, and we'll be back. So see you later.
See you. Bye.
Thank you again for tuning in to another episode of the Heroes of Fantasy Football podcast. Follow us on Twitter at TheHeroesFF.